Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me here at Angie B Crafts. Today this video is about Angie B and Dawnie D and our creating from the same stash and see what we both end up with. So it was my turn to set the challenge, and you may notice that here I have a range of green, and that's because I foolishly said that the main colour has to be green. And I'm regretting it now, but I would say I'm not a green person, yet these are just a few of my green things. These are my acrylics basically. I've also got watercolours and oils and alcohol inks and pencils and pens, and yeah, I've got loads of green and I hadn't realised until I did this. So let me tell you what the challenge is. So we have two substrates. These are fabulous. They're from Crafty Devils. They're the driftwood plaques. So we have to use one or other of these, and I'm thinking I'm going to use that one. I think I might change my mind in a minute, but my plan at the minute is that one. And what I like about these is that they've also got these little bits here that I will be poking out, and I think they'll, oops, they will add a bit more texture. Apologies for that. So yeah, these are going to add a little bit more texture. So I also have a selection of other bits and bobs. Most of them are MDF. There's a couple of chipboard ones, and I've got these weird little bauble-y things. I don't know what you call them. The little, I think they're plastic. I've managed to dinterfuse, so I think they are plastic. Got a little glass bottle. More of the little bally things. I think there's 5 of them. And then we have sentiment. So that's the only sentiment that I've allowed, is just one of these. We've each got one of these. So mine says unique on it. I can't remember what one I sent through to Dawn, but it's a similar look to that. So there's no stamping, there's no paper that can be added, but we can use any medium and any texture. So any colour, any medium, any texture paste that we want, but the main colour has to be green. So I started off getting all my greens out, hence the table looking as it does. So that's, yeah, this is my starting point. I'm going to add in other colours because, well, I might not actually. Possibly stick with all green. I don't know, that's a bit weird. But I suppose I have got a big range. I'm just moving all these up above my mat so that I can still see them. This one, I'm excited about this because I've not used it yet. In fact, oh, the cover's not stuck on. Right, where's my pokey tool? The cover has stuck inside. It's a brand new bottle, but the cover, oops. Right. Oh, I need to put that on something now. Right, I need a craft journal. Here's craft journal. I've just opened it on this page and I'm just splodging that on. This is purely because I absolutely love this. Right, the reason I'm getting excited about this, it is shimmer paint. It is the fabulous new shimmer paint from Diane Reevely. So I'm just going to stick it on there. This is how so many of my pages start off. You can see that one's all purple, but now it's got green on it as well. Hey! Right, sorry, I digress. So yeah, I'm excited to use that because it's shimmer. So that one's in fresh lime, and then I've got just the ordinary Dilutions paint in Island Parrot. Oh, my eyes are going. I thought that said Wand Parrot, but it says Island Parrot. Right, so first thing that I want to do, I'm not going to decide what I'm putting on. I'm going to start by just sticking a layer of gesso on top of this. So I have got my gesso. I've just picked up my Pretty Gets Gritty gesso. I haven't used this one for a while. And I need a brush. Now before I start with the brush, I do want to poke these out. So you get that real little, I mean, one of the things with these, I know that one of the things that Dawn tends to do is use cardboard, but for smaller pieces, these little wooden bits might be quite useful. I'm thinking they might add texture to my piece as well. So we'll see what we end up with. That one was a bit stubborn. Where is it? Oh, you're not coming out that side. Right, it's not quite broken on that side, so I'm just going to go along. I'll try it with a poker tool. If not, I'll go and get it. No, it's work with a poker tool. Sometimes when these are all laser cut and they don't always cut right the way through. So I know this is going to be my front piece because it's got the smoother bits, but just on the back edge, I don't know if you're able to see that. You can just see there's some slightly sticky out bits. If you want to be very fussy, you can sand those back or just get a knife and run it along them. They don't worry me too much because they're on the back, so I'm not bothered. Right, so start off just slapping on some gesso. I've said it before and I'll say it again and again and again. The reason that I put gesso on, most people put gesso on, there's two reasons. One is if you're working on MDF, it's just going to, your first layer is going to absorb straight into the MDF. It just sucks it in. It's like when you've got a freshly plastered wall, you get exactly the same effect. It just sucks in that first layer. So you don't want to use your nice, expensive, really small bottles. So we compare the comparison. This is a small jar of gesso. This is 150 mils, but you get 29 mils in a bottle of coloured paint. It's a big difference. So you don't want to be using this and then seeing it just disappear into your wood or into your paper. So the gesso just gives it a base. It's up to you how you want the colour to react as to whether you put a clear gesso, a black gesso or a white gesso, but generally gesso is your undercoat. It is an acrylic paint, but it's acting as an undercoat. Right, the other reason is that if you've got several different materials, gesso unifies them so they all react to your colour in the same way. It may be that you don't want that to happen. It may be that you want, so if I wanted some of these pieces to absorb some of the colour, because they're smaller, they're not going to take on a lot of colour, then I could do that and it would give a different effect than one that's actually got the gesso on, whether it be white or black, because it's going to absorb into the wood, or even with the clear it's going to react differently if it's just on the plain wood. So it unifies it. So if you want all your materials to act in the same way on your piece, then gesso allows that to happen. If you're not bothered about that and you've not got a surface that's going to just suck all the paint in and you're happy to use that as your base, then you can. You don't have to gesso. In my art journals, I will gesso some of the time. It tends to be more if I'm using alcohol inks or something like that that needs a smooth surface. And a surface, again, if you want a surface that's not going to be absorbent. So yeah, I love gesso. Gesso is fabulous. So now we have this. Now what I want to do now is add some texture. And I've picked up my texture by Izink. These are the Seth Apter ones. Now let me show you the difference. One of these doesn't look like the other. Let's see if we can figure it out. So some of them are nice, and that one's nice and clean. That one's nice and clean. That one's fairly clean. This one's just tatty. It's covered, because that's the one I use all the time. So I'm going to put that to one side and not use it today. This is the one I actually want to use today, but I might bring some of this in as well. I'm not going to use the sandy. But this is the flaky one. I can't remember if I've used this on a video before or not. But it doesn't matter, because I shall use it now. Now I love this. Oh, I've managed to drop things on top of my paint. Just let me, not that it particularly matters, but I don't want little divots that I don't intend to be there. So this stuff, it's an acrylic based product, but then it's got flakes in it, which are kind of cool. I think, I wouldn't swear to it, but I think they're flakes of mica. So I don't know if you can see. Yeah, you can see it there. There's some like flakes here. So that's one of the flakes. And they just add a bit of uneven texture. If you do a little bit thicker, so if I was to put that on like this, then you can start getting them to stand up and you start to get more like a sharp edge like that. So this is kind of cool because it gives you a very different texture. I've got another paste that does something similar to this, but I don't like it as much. It's only a very small pot of the other one that I've got, and I'm not as bigger fan of it. It's a Cosmic Shimmer one. I still use it, but I prefer this. To be honest, I think I just love pouches. I just love painting pouches. I absolutely love as well. I don't know what it is about pouches. I'm thinking I might get a larger knife in a minute. Right, so we've added a fair whack of texture on here. I just want some more up the top there. I don't know why I put balloons in and birds and then said it has to be green. There's no logic to that at all, is there? I apologise, Dawn. It's one of those things that when I set the challenge, I kind of think, oh, how can I challenge myself? So I challenge myself. Because green isn't a colour I use, despite having apparently shed loads of it. And then I regret it. Right, I've got a bigger knife here, and the reason I've got the bigger knife is that I want to now just start lifting some of those bits up. Doing it with the little knife, you tend to get more lines. Because this is bigger, you don't notice the lines as much. So we'll just lift up some of those bits. I don't want to lose any of them. So we'll pop them back on. Yeah, I'm liking that. I'm liking the way it's looking. So you can see now it's kind of got some really interesting texture. It's not just your bog standard sand texture paste. I don't like that bit along there. There we are. That's better. Right. Oh yeah, the other thing in the challenge, we have to use the MDF. Doesn't matter about the other bits, but we have to use all of the MDF pieces. Forgot that bit. Mind you, I don't think that'll be a problem. Right, I'm going to give this a quick blast because it's not one that needs to dry on its own. I'm going to heat it up, but it may do a bit of bubbling, so we might get even more texture. So we'll see what happens. So this is, I've just realised it's upside down. This is the nearly dry. It's not quite 100% dry, but it's dry enough. And what I've also done is pull out some of my green sprays. I don't have green, she says. Yes, I flipping do. Look at them all. This is ridiculous. This one, I'm not sure I can get away with it as being a green. It's the new salvaged patina. Oh, it's the oxide as well. Don't want the oxide. The salvaged patina that isn't oxide, I might get away with, but I don't know, I want to use it. This one you can see is brand new. So what I'm thinking is, use that as my base. Never been used before, no idea what the colour is going to be like. This is one of the Seth Apter Izink inks. I've got quite a few of these. They are one of my very, very favourite spray inks. I love the muted tones of them. I love how they react with each other and with the different things that I spray them onto. A lot of my projects contain the brown ones, funnily enough. But yeah, I'm going to try this one on here. Let's see what happens. So this is brand new. Oh, look at that colour. I haven't actually got a clue where I'm going with this setup, so... Oh, sugar butties. Let's add some of this. So that one's called Emerald, and this one, I've got all over my finger, obviously not been caring for my inks properly, is called Spring Green. Oh, I like how the two of them mix. That's a bit nice. That's a bit lovely. Let's see if we can get a bit of movement on there as well. So you can now really start to see that texture, and you can start to see that they're not just little peaks, particularly here. There's lots of like tiny little bits of mica sticking up. Should we try a little bit of the lime? This is the fresh lime. This is the Diane Reevely one, the Dilutions one. The thing with this is that these are designed to stay reactive. These ones aren't. These ones are designed to stay permanent. These are designed to stay reactive. So once you've put them on, you can come back to them a year later. If you put water on them, they're still going to react. So it really does depend what you're looking for. The way around that, which is what I'll be doing, and I've just recently bought, where have I put it? I've never used this, so I can't give you feedback on it, but I just bought this, which is a clear gloss varnish and sealer. So I'm going to be trying that on a few of my smaller pieces to see if I like the effect it has. I like how that lime has just brightened everything up. So here we have the dried piece. There's still a few tiny bits that aren't quite dry, but you can see, because I've put 3 different colours on, we're getting very different little pieces of colouring that makes it look a lot more natural. It almost looks like an algae because of the texture paste we've used, which I'm rather liking. Like I said, I don't actually know where I'm going with this, but I'm really loving that as a background. I think it's fabulous. I'm not regretting the green as much now. Right, what I'm thinking now is, we've got 3 birds. Why don't we do each one in a different colour? So I'm going to use the same 3 colours. So I'm going to use the fresh lime. I'm not going to put the gesso on these first though and just see how it looks. If it doesn't work, the advantage with this, so you can see that's all blobbered up, so we might not actually get that to absorb. I'm going to get a brush and just see if that can encourage it in a little bit, because the MDF has a coating on it, so you kind of have to get through it. So my idea of not using the gesso may not work. What I may have to do, in fact what I will do, is get the clear gesso, and we can put the clear gesso on, and from that we can add on the colour. So the clear gesso starts off white. Don't be fooled, it is gesso, it is clear. So this is a new brush, so let's just pop it on. What I would say with your brushes is make sure you have water next to you, because otherwise they can end up a little bit of a mess. You can see that's just going on, it's sitting onto the wood really nicely, but it's not adding colour, we're just adding a clear layer, and then it just needs a blast, and you'll see the difference in a minute. I might see how that one turns out without the clear gesso, because it doesn't matter whether it's got it or not. Again, I've just picked up my transparent gesso that's Pretty Gets Gritty because it's the one that's nearest. I do also have transparent gesso in a couple of other brands. One is the Dina Wakley Media one, and the other one I think is possibly Tim Holtz. Can't quite remember. So they're both Ranger, so they're kind of both from the same market. Right, let's see what happens. I'll give these a blast, and I'll also blast that one dry and see if it keeps the colour, and then I'll come back and show you how this spray onto each of them. So here are the 3 birds. This is the one that doesn't have gesso on. You can see it's quite matte, it's all absorbed in, but you can also see that you've got a nice little bit of the brown of the wood coming through, which just adds a little bit more depth and texture. Now, one thing I've discovered that I will give you as a don't do what I did is make sure that you don't flip your pieces. I really struggled to see which side was which. This one stayed the right way, this one flipped, and I didn't know how many times it had flipped over. There is a very slight difference because we've got a bit of a sheen going on here. It's not gloss, it's just got a bit of a sheen. So I was able to tell, but just to note that clear gesso is clear, so make sure you know which side you're working on. Right, let's try these and see how they react. And what I'm thinking is I might put another layer on top of there. So these have now got clear gesso, so they should react differently than the first one. So you can see straight away it's not blobbing up as much. Oops. I'm going to pop this. This has now got a layer of paint on it, so it may react differently. Yeah, so you can see that's not blobbing up as much. So the clear gesso has done the job of the first layer of colour, which is what I was saying at the beginning. Your gesso prevents you spending your money on your base layer. So this is the one that's got green on it and then green on top, so it's made it much more vibrant in colour. This one has got a layer of gesso. I've not bothered changing out my brushes for the simple reason I want the added colour in there. And then this one again hasn't got the gesso, so it's not blobbed up in this. It has got the gesso, sorry, so it's not blobbed up because the gesso is protecting it from absorbing in. We have been left with a lot of spare paint here, spare ink, and I feel bad to keep offloading it, so I'm just going to add it onto this page. So here we have our 3 birds. Okay. The ones that I've put the gesso on, we're getting a different effect. We're tending to get more of the layering of the different colours. So I've forced these dry. So there's some patches where the paint was on thicker, so it's a lot darker. This is the one that didn't have gesso on it, but it's actually coloured through. This is coloured on both sides as well, so if I wanted to, I could use the other side. And that's just because there was so much on the mat, it's absorbed it. And then this one, this is the gessoed side, but it's gone kind of a murky brown. I prefer the one where it was just sitting in the paint. So I think they are the way that I'm going to use the birds. Bring in this and then see how the birds look on it. So I'm wanting to put the colours not to be on top. So if I put that there, it's not quite as obvious. Actually, I'm thinking, because they're all going to be facing that way, I could have them like that, couldn't I? Oh, what about the birds are coming in to attack? That sounds awful, doesn't it? To attack all these hot air balloons. Hot air balloons can sit like this, and then you can have a couple of clouds. Doesn't really matter where the clouds are, does it? Because it's kind of, yeah, it doesn't matter. Clouds need to be coloured. I like that way up, but I don't like this, so it definitely needs some gesso on it. Wanting that one up there, I think. Quite like that one there. I feel like we're a bit empty here, but we do have these. Oh, I know what we could do. We could start putting these. Oh wow, this is the right number as well. Put these in like this. Genius. Genius. Oh, I'm liking that. I don't quite know how I'm going to stick it on, but I'm quite liking that. It's almost like the the film where the house gets lifted up by the balloons. I can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, it's like that. They're the balloons helping the hot air balloon up through the air. So this is our sentiment, and this is definitely what this piece is. It is unique. So we now need to add some other colours on here. I'm going to go away from green for doing this, because we've got here, I'm thinking I need less of the green. I might do some green on the back balloons, but this main one isn't going to be green. So we'll move these. We know we're going to do something with them, and that's kind of roughly how that's going to look. So we'll pop that to one side. I'm going to get some gesso onto our lovely clouds. You don't want transparent, you want white, Angela. They're clouds. And what I'm thinking for the clouds, because there's so much green, we might actually have a little bit of a hint of greeny colour on the clouds, some of the paler greens that I've got, but we shall see. But I do want this white gesso on first. So we've now got a hint of green on these clouds and a little bit of textures. Clouds aren't flat, are they? The reason I'm putting the hint of green is if you look at the sky, the clouds, you might think that they're white, but they're actually a paler colour than what's around them. They're probably more of a grey, but I'm thinking this is going to be absorbing some of the green colour in my green sky, because let's face it, where would there be a green sky? Can't say I've ever seen one. Maybe if the Aurora Borealis is there, it might be green, I don't know. In my mind, I want a different colour on top of there. I'm thinking this pale green, but I'm not sure. I'm just going to pop a little bit out on the mat and see what I think. I'm doing it while the gesso's still wet, which probably isn't the best plan. So we'll see how it looks. Oh, actually that's going on quite nicely. I'm just putting tiny little bit on my brush. I'm not wanting to do it all in the same direction. Go in different directions, because it's not all going to be green. But I quite like the way that's working. So I'm putting it on and then almost tapping it straight off again. So we're only putting tiny little amounts of green on there. But I'm hoping, I don't think I've ever said green quite so frequently. I'm hoping that it's going to give us a nice effect. So this one's a much more green cloud, but it's got less texture as well. I don't know if I like that one as much. I might get the gesso out and add a bit more whiting on that one. Don't ever be afraid to try something, because if you don't like it, gesso is your friend. You just whiz some gesso on top. I'm not trying to cover it all, because I do want some of that green there. It's paling it down a bit. There's still going to be, because I'm pouncing it rather than painting it, it's not mixing 100%, but it is doing a good job of mixing. I'm thinking maybe a brush like this would be better to get more texture. Oh yes, that's much nicer. So this is just a stencil brush, so it's got a flat round end. You can get them in a whole range of different sizes and things. So they're just, all stencil brush is it's circular and the end is completely flat. And the theory is that you can then get equal amounts of paint through any stencils or ink or whatever it is you're putting through. Let's get a little bit here. So it gives more of a cloudy effect. Even if I just do it on the mat there, it's giving a kind of cloudy effect. I'll tell you, I don't use my stencil brushes anywhere near enough. But the one thing that you don't want to do is overload them. If you put too much paint on a stencil brush, you want the paint to just be a couple of mil up your brush. If it starts getting up here, you've got way too much paint on, and it just means that you're going to splodge it. If you're doing it just with, see, I've not moved that before it's dried. This is why you should always move your work if you've used paints around it, because it can stick. But if it does stick, you saw there, that really complex wave, use your pokey tool. Right, I need a little bit more of the white, because I've got too much white on, too much green on this one now. I'm going to do it with a stencil brush again. And it's okay to just build your layers up like this. If you think about when you're doing a painting, say of a person, you wouldn't expect to just put one layer of paint on and get the exact facial colouring and everything's uniform. You'd expect to have to build it up in layers. And it's the same as you're doing this kind of thing. You just want to add layers until you're happy with it. If you're happy earlier on with it, then you don't need to add as many. Oh, I quite like how they look now. I don't think you can actually see on here how green that is, but it actually has quite a lot of green on it. But it's not really showing up on the camera. Oh, you're not seeing that at all really, but it is there. I promise you it is there. Right, I think that green is going to look really nice added on to this page because it's a different green. So we'll pop that on as well. So this just looks like a dog's dinner, doesn't it? Oh, there we go, even picked up. I did, I actually mopped up off one of the birds, the one that had the dark colour on. So we've ended up with a bit of a wet patch still on there. This is the beginning of another page. It looks like nothing, it looks like an absolute mess, but it won't be. It will be a fabulous page by the time it's done, and by the time it's done could be any time between now and 10 years hence. I have so many pages that are part done in my art journals, and even those that are done I never view as completely done. Right, let me show you something that I've got. I don't know whether I've shown this before. This is brilliant for just scraping off. There you go, all gone. Hey, I love it. It's just a little blade that slots in here, and then you just hold it at the sides and scrape it. It's fabulous. It's just a decorator thing that I got off Amazon. Love it. Got it for decorating, but I nicked one to come into my craft room because I liked them. Right, what colour do we want our balloons? Now we've got yellows and reds on here. What's that thing about yellows and green? No, reds and green should never be seen, except on fools. Is it and the Queen? I'm sure that's the one I learnt. Seems a bit rude to the Queen, I think, but hey ho. Right, I'm thinking I might actually... Oh, we could use these to add texture. I wonder if we could weave them. Yeah, that's quite flexible. So if I paint this up, I don't know what colours to paint this. I think I want to go away from green. And it only said green had to be the focal colour, it doesn't have to be the only colour. So we've got our clouds, they're going to be something like that. Yes. I'm going to go with as a kind of orangey colour here, so it goes red, orange and then more yellowy. So this orangey mid-range colour, which is like a burnt orange. Oh, this is the shimmer one. I think it might be a better colour. They're meant to be the same colour, but I think that... Oh yes, I think we're going to have an orange balloon. Orange is the order of the day. So I'm really intrigued as to what Dawn does with this, because she was... I apologised to her as it arrived. She said she'd received it but she wasn't going to open it because she was doing other things at that point in time, but she was opening it in a couple of days, and I immediately messaged her and said, I'm sorry, please forgive me, please don't be mean on future ones. And the reason was, I said about the green. Now I don't know if I knew that Dawn wasn't a green fan. I don't consciously think I did, but apparently Dawn's not a green fan. And I think if I'd have known that, yeah, I probably would have still done it, to be honest, but I don't think I did know. So she wasn't very happy. She said it's absolutely fine apart from green. Why did you choose green? And it's the simple reason was because I don't use my green enough, and apparently I've got a lot more of it than I realised I had. I mean, there's one of them, this one that's only just arrived. I thought I'll get that because I haven't got many greens. I hadn't actually sat and got all my green paint out before. So this now has got, I don't know if you can see, it's got a lovely shimmer. I do love this shimmer paint. I'm not a shimmer girl, but these shimmer paints are just gorgeous. But I think that with that is going to look a bit lush. So how about doing the bottom bit in the red? Do I have a red shimmer? Oh, I do. Look, it's brand new. It's never been opened. See, I've got way too many things because I've got so many that haven't yet been opened. Probably stab myself now. I'm sure there's a really, really simple way to open your paints, but I tend to go down the route of shove something sharp in it and see what happens. So on this one, oh, that one's a bit solid. Okay, let's see how it comes out. See if it's usable. Oh, I don't know if it is. Let's try it, because that's much more solid. If we compare that to the green one, it's much more solid. Oh, it's still usable, but it is thicker than I would have anticipated. So I'm purposely going up here a little bit. I think that colour is gorgeous. We have a balloon. So this balloon now needs to take, let's see, that's fairly dry. So because this isn't on top of gesso, it's fairly dry. The bottom bit's still a bit wet, but this bit's dry. But I'm thinking I could, in theory, wrap this around underneath. Oh yes, that'd work. Now you'll notice I've not yet stuck anything down, and that's just my own insecurity of sticking things down and then changing my mind. Oh, I like that. I like how that looks. Why did I say no paper? Because I really want to add some paper onto this, a little bit of tissue paper. Right, let's get these other bits. Where do we want them? I think we'll accept that this is actually all sky. Let's not cluster everything. There we go. So we need some more balloons. Oh, we could actually. What about that? This one doesn't have, but we could just stick it behind. It doesn't have a hole. Could stick it behind in some way. And then each of the balloons has a balloon. I think that works. I quite like it. It's a bit fun. I'm very tempted. I have this paint here, and I really like the colour of it. Oh, I know which one. The lime shimmer. So this one we know is going to come out a lot faster. So you can see how runny that is by comparison to the other two. So that's the way it's meant to look. It's meant to look runny. So if you do get one that's a bit stiffer, it's not how it's meant to be, but it is. You've seen it is still usable. Just trying to clean off a brush here. There we go. That'll do. Right, I'm going to do the body of this one in the green. This is chipboard, so this is kind of like the material that beer mats are made out of. I think this balloon is one of the Samantha K range. I've got quite a few bits and bobs off Samantha K. They are rather nice. I've got loads of steampunk stuff because I just love me a bit of steampunk. On this one I am going to go around the edges. I haven't on the others because I think the darker brown edge is quite complementary to what's going on, but this one's a bit pale, so I'm just going to go around the edges with the green. I may change it to another colour if I don't like it, but for now we'll give this a go. So I hope everyone's enjoying the sunshine. I'm recording this the day before it's being released. It's a bank holiday weekend and the sunshine is stupendous here. It's rather lovely. But I'm not actually out in the garden because my good lady wife is currently out there strimming and it's a bit noisy. So I thought I'd hide away in here. Right. Now, what other colour? Do we think the red? I think we should go the red again. Let's have all the baskets. Oh no, one of the baskets is green. Oh. I just want a titchy tiny little bit. I think that should be enough. I'm going part way up. Two reasons. One, I think it adds to it, but also I just cocked up painting it a bit. So let's take it up there. I think this one can have a bit of red on the inside. This is going to be the bright one. I think it can have some orange as well. I think. In fact, what happens if I do it all red and then put the orange over the top? Let us see. Do love these little ones. This one is this is from the range, I think. It was a set of tiny little pieces of chipboard, and this is one of them. It came with, oh, there were all sorts in it. There was arrows, there was birds, I can't remember what else was in it, but some of them were little balloons. Well, that's actually quite nice with the texture of the orange as well. So we get a slightly different look there because we're doing the broken colour thing again. I quite like that. I want to put a little bit of orange on the bottom here as well. Yeah, I quite like that. And if we think that's going to be up in the sky, it's going to be really high, you're not really going to see a lot of it, so it doesn't matter if there's any smudges and things on it. So I've attached all these. I've ended up attaching the balls with glue because the back of this one got melted when I was heat drying the other 2 balloons, so I kind of couldn't attach it with the string, and then I realised these bits of metal were actually looking a bit tatty, so I've attached them with gel medium, so they're currently still wet but they have got gel medium on them. What I do like here is that because I heat set this, it's actually, I'm not going to pick it up and show you just at the minute, but it's actually bubbled, and I do like myself a little bit of a bubbling with my acrylics. So I'm actually quite liking how they're looking, and I've also stuck down all these, with the exception of the sentiment, I've stuck down all the other bits as well, so that's where they're going to go. So once everything's dried, I will come back, assemble it and put the finishing touches on. So here we are with everything that had already been stuck on, now solid, and we have these as solid. You can see that I've just stuck them on with the glue. I think it looks much neater than it did with the wires. Like I say, I actually melted the rear of this one, so you can still see it a little bit, but it won't be noticeable once it's on the piece, she says optimistically. So yeah, they've all stuck on fine. I just used gel medium to stick those on. I want to add something to stick this on. I feel like this should be hanging free somewhere, so I'm thinking I might use some cotton to dangle that. I'm not too sure yet. Decisions. So let's get these stuck on, because we're nearing the end, I do believe. Something like that. Something like that. I think I like it like that, because then the balloons are all sort of in the same general area. I feel like maybe I should have put a third cloud in, but hey ho, I didn't, so I can't do anything about that. Yeah, I like that, so I'm just going to use the gel medium, which I've carefully put away somewhere. Oh, here it is. And I'm going to attach the balloons. I'm going to use a brush for doing it. I'm finding at the minute with quite a lot of these things that the brush is the easier way to apply gel medium if it's not too wonky a surface. If you've got a really uneven surface, then I would tend to apply gel medium with a palette knife, because then you can get a good thick layer, but I'm using brushes more so at the moment because this isn't an overly wonky medium that we're applying to. So I'm just using the Pretty Gets Gritty gel medium. This has got a gloss finish, so it does dry clear. Personally, I'm more of a matte girl than a gloss girl, but matte gel medium doesn't dry clear. So if I want it to dry clear like this, so that we don't get all the bits coming through, I will use this medium instead. I am dying to see what Dawn does with hers, because I say it every month, we do such different things. I think we came quite close last month to doing something vaguely similar, but I just think it's really good fun to do these challenges. Oops. Right, so if anyone wants to see any of the other stuff that I do, please feel free to follow me on here, or you can have a look at me on Facebook, Angie B Crafts. So I do put a lot of pictures on that. I don't make videos of absolutely everything I make, so I do put a lot of pictures on of other things that I have made along the way. So if you want to see what other bits and bats I get up to, please feel free to follow me on Facebook or on Instagram, where I've got the name Angie Mary B. Because Angie B Crafts was already gone, and I figured if we had too many numbers behind it, it's a bit more confusing. I'm just clearing off some of my glue, because the nightmare of gel medium is if you get it stuck in the ridges of the lid, because you'd never actually get it back open without an awful lot of effort. Okay, so we're nearly there. I feel this needs some form of a frame on it. Now my go-to is my black ink pad, but I'm thinking on this occasion I might choose a dark green. Let me see if I don't know if I have a dark green ink pad. So I've raided my VersaFine Clair coloured inks. This is the only green I've got, and this I just think is the wrong green. I don't think it's dark enough, so I'm not going to use that. Oh, sorry, I've just noticed this at the side. That might work. I'll come back to that in a minute. I picked up purple, but looking at it, I don't think that's going to go. The other option is brown. That's my favourite at the minute, but I've just noticed this sitting at the side of me. If you ever struggle getting your lids off things, highly recommend getting a little bit of Dicem, which is a fabulous product that I've used for years with patients. Right, oh, that's nice and dark. That might work, mightn't it? Right, we need a sponge. Got a little bit of cut and dry. So this has all been washed, it's nice and clean, but it stains. So if you're expecting your sponges to come up nice and shiny white again, they never do, just to be warned. I'm thinking, oh yes, I know it's a different green, but I like the fact that it's just giving it a nice little edge. I quite like that. It's a different tone of green. If I was to talk to Julia McNeil, I know she'd be able to tell me that it's a green with more blue or a green with more yellow. I don't know these things. Me and knowing the difference in the two things, yeah, it's not me. It's just not me. So I'm just going to put this around the edges. I'm going to avoid the clouds. I'm going to let them just stay as they are, peeking off the edges. She says optimistic that she's not going to botch it up. See, I shouldn't say things because it can then all go horribly wrong. Whereas if I just did it and then said, oh yes, I intended to do that, you'd never know. But I think when I do these videos, it's really important to let you guys know that it goes wrong for everyone. At some point or another, we all make a mistake. And if you make a mistake, you just change what you're doing. Somehow. Sometimes it's a tiny change, other times it can be a pretty major change. Oh, there we go, got a bit of green on there, but that's okay because we've already got some green on the clouds. So I can just go over that with a bit of white if I wanted to. I'm not happy with it, which I might just do because I do actually think I prefer the clouds to be a little bit more standy-outy. Technical term, that's standy-outy. Now, much as I like that, I don't think it's quite what I want. I'm just going to mop this up again onto this same page. Just adding the green in. I've no idea how this is going to end up, but hey ho. Right, so that's that done. I do like it, but it's not quite right. So I am going to go in with the brown as well. That's pretty much dry because I put such a thin layer on, so just going to go straight on top. VersaFine Clair is a permanent ink, so it's going to go on. It's got a long open time, so it's going to stay wetter for longer, but it is a permanent ink. I'll show you the label there. It's pigment ink. It's the ink. I use my black VersaFine Clair for all my stamping, even on occasions when I should really be using an alcohol-based ink. I still tend to go for my VersaFine Clair because that's just the one that I like to use. So I'm doing this as I normally would with my black alcohol ink. See, that's not dry yet, but you know what, that works in our favour because we can get in there and then just pop that back over like so. Ta-da! You wouldn't know it had just moved. So I'm just doing this as I would with the black, but I'm doing it at more of an angle upwards instead of doing it like that and dragging it. Because I've put the green, I want this to then edge the green, and this is such a juicy pad. I don't know if you can see how thick a line we're getting, so I think this is going to take a while to dry. So I think I'm going to be doing a come back and show you how it looks at the end, because it's going to take ages. And come along this bottom bit, getting some really nice pooling. If everything else was dry, I'd probably stick on this a little bit of embossing powder, but I'm not going to, because there's some things that are wet and I don't want to add the heat gun just yet. You know what? How can I do this without smudging it? Right, because I know that's not stuck on, I'm actually going to lift it off. You can see we've got water reactive inks, that's why that's gone a bit funny. And we can add that on like so, and then pop that back on there. Okay, right, so I'm going to let that dry. I'm not going to move it about too much, and then I will come back and decide where the sentiment is going to go. See you soon. So here it is all stuck together, and what I found was, because there was such a thick layer of the ink at the side, it actually didn't dry very well, so I've just gone round it and used my raggy to soak some of it off. And what happened was I got little bits of the lines on my raggy, and then some of it moved over onto the edges, so I've ended up doing a little bit more of a darker edge than I anticipated. But having said that, I actually quite like how it's ended up looking. I just think it's got that more distressed look, which is kind of the style that I like to go for. All these are pretty firmly stuck on, they're not going anywhere. The other thing that I want to do is to add some little white highlights. A white pen is a really good way of just finishing off your pieces. I think what I'm going to have to do with the edges is do what I said I wasn't going to do, and that's actually heat set them, but I'll do that afterwards and then just show you the finished result. So I'm going to bring this in. I'm just bringing it in just to add a little bit of a highlight, not being overly careful about where it goes, but I'm discovering it's very difficult to use a pen in between little balls. Who knew? Right, then I think, so you can see this is just coming off all over me, so it really does need to be heat set, so I will be doing that. Right, my little birds need some highlights as well, so I'm thinking just like little feathery bits like this on that one, and similar on this one. Now you'll see here that it's actually taking on the colour of the ink that's underneath. If you've seen my videos before, you'll have heard me say this, that because they're water-based products, they will take on the colour of the white, will take on the colour of the water-based product underneath. So unless you seal it before you add the white on, you're not going to prevent that from happening. Okay. Now for going around the edges of the cloud, I'm just going to use a very fine pen, again just to have the same sort of an effect, just to add a little bit of an outline. I feel like that needs to go right the way around now. I quite like how that looks actually. I think I'll do the same on this one. There we go. And I also want to, on this one, draw in a faux basket. So this is my Jane Davenport pen. It's incredibly fine. This isn't the finest one, but it is incredibly fine, and they're just really quite handy for doing things like drawing in the basket. I just felt this one was a bit plain, so I just wanted to add in a little bit there. Okay, now the last thing that I want to do, well, nearly the last thing I want to do, I know I haven't yet put the sentiment on, it's sitting there, it's not stuck on, but I want to add some splishy splashes. I love doing this, it's just such a fun thing to do. So So I just want some white splashes across the whole thing, and apparently across my whole desk as well. So I'm purposely coming in from both sides. Do some bigger splashes as well. So if you're hitting it, you're going to get smaller splashes. Doing it like this, you're going to get bigger splashes. So I didn't want quite as much of the bigger splashes. This is a thicker pen, so you're going to get bigger splashes than you are with a smaller pen. But you'll see here it's taking on the colour of the green, because again, as I said before, it is a water reactive product that we've put on. Right, so the one remaining thing that I'm going to do, this is my cheat. I hold my hands up to the fact that I'm cheating. I rooted this out. This is a plaque, and a plaque needs to be hung. So I've decided this is what I want to hang my plaque on. But I also want to hang my sentiment on it, because I just think that's going to look kind of cool. So I want my sentiment to hang down here like this on here. Okay, so I've rooted out some of these clear hair bands, and I am going to decide how high I want that. So that's going to be my point of contact. That's going to be down to the sentiment, that's going to be back up, and that's going to be across to there with a bit extra. So this is where I want to tie the band around. Don't know if this is going to work, it's just a thought that I had, a way of doing it. I'm doing that the wrong way around. Oh, this is like when I'm doing someone else's hair. I can tie my own hair up. I'm dreadful at tying someone else's hair up. So my plan is, she says with optimism, that this will go on there. You know what I've forgotten to do? I've put that on. I've not put the flipping thing on, have I? So here we have our hangy thing. I don't know what you'd call this. I'm going to go to the other end, because the other end has got the cut end, which is going to fit through there a little bit more easily. I'm going to need a pokey tool to poke that through. It's been stubborn. Oh, you know, this doesn't want to go through at all. Got it. Right. So that's going to be my sentiment. Now, even though it's going to be hung on here, and I want it to be loose, I might choose for it to not be loose, which sounds daft, I know. So my theory now is this goes through here, this goes through here, and this sits in the middle, hanging somewhere. I feel like this wasn't destined to be, because it's cheating. I'll take it off. We'll do something else. This needs to be chopped now to get this off. Don't like it. It's not working. Here is my little box of gilts and gilding and stuff like that. And I'm trying to figure out which one is in keeping with what we're doing. And the one I'm after is apparently in hiding. Here it is. So this one, it's the one that I use the most actually. It's Antique Gold by Pebeo, and it's my oldest one, it's the one I use the most, and it's the one I love the most. And all it's going to do is highlight that a little bit and just make it stand out a little bit more than it does, because it was looking a little bit nondescript the way it was, and now you can clearly see the word on it, which is what I want. Yeah, that looks better. I'm happy with that. I'm going to use a little bit of gel medium with a brush because it's a small item and it's not an overly thick and uneven surface, so the brush should suffice. Gel medium is designed to stick anything to anything basically, so I'm hoping that this will stay put. This one is, as I said before, a gloss one, and because it's gloss it will dry clear, so I will clear it out a little bit where it's gone over, but I'm not overly worried because it's actually going to dry clear, which is fine. There we go. So that is me done, I do believe. So my sentiment, just to remind you, says unique. I don't know if you can see it on there or not. So it just says unique, and that is my unique skyscape, which is, yeah, it's interesting. I hope you've enjoyed that. Please subscribe, hit the little bell so that you get notified when I've got videos up. I have been a little bit less frequent in my posting recently because of buying and selling a house and planning moves and things, but I'm hoping to get some more up before I actually move so that you've still got something to keep you going during the move. Take care of yourselves. Thank you very much for your time, and hopefully I'll see you all again soon. Bye for now.